welcome to today's video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Luna and welcome to Luna's Bookshelf. First of all, Happy New Year, Happy 2025. I hope you had an amazing New Year's Eve and a nice 1st of January. And yeah, let's get into the new year, I would say. Okay, so as you can see, I'm holding this little microphone. I got it from Christmas and I'm very thankful for it. And in my last video, I forgot to use it, so that's what we're doing today. I hope it's going to work because when I attached it, because I do have something to attach it to, it was not the what I was hoping it would be. So I'm going to hold it for now and we're going to see how it works. And yeah, it's just a learning process. So yeah, in today's video, I'm going to talk to you guys about some book related things of 2024. I'm going to talk book statistics and I'm going to answer some questions. All the questions I'm going to answer I got from the video of Sara Carrolli. She filmed it, I think, when she was doing Bookmas. I will try to link it down in the subscription down below. So if you want to watch that video, you can. So these questions aren't mine and I just took them from her video. So yeah, I would say let's get into it because we have a lot to talk about. So first up, I'm going to talk about the statistics. I got these from Storygraph. I really love Storygraph. It's the same thing as Goodreads, but you have a lot more insights in the kind of books you read, and you have all these kind of graphics, and I really love that. So yeah, and I will put pictures on it if you want to see it with me. So yeah, I read a total of 70 books this year, last year. My original goal was 30 books, but then once I hit the 30 mark, I changed it to 40, and then I hit the 40 mark, and I was like, you know what, we're just going to keep it at 40, and it's going to set it a little bit higher for the next year. So yeah, I read 70 books, and I also made a personal goal to read 10,000 pages, and I read a total of 26,326 pages. I don't know how accurate this is, but I try to match the books I'm reading to logging the books I look up on Storygraph, so it should be pretty correct. Then I took 30 days. That was my average time to finish a book, so 2 weeks, not just 2 weeks. And then about the moods, I really love this section of Storygraph. You have this graph and you see the moods you mostly read. So my top 4 moods are emotional. I read 41 books. Then funny, these are 29 books. Lighthearted, 23 books. And then adventurous, 20 books. So that are my 4 top most read moods. Then I read mostly medium paced books, 71%, then fast, 26%, and then slow, 3%. Then for page numbers, I mostly read books between 300 and 499 pages, and then 29% less than 300, and 30% more than 500. Then I read 64 fiction books, and I read 6 non-fiction books. This is the first year I read that many non-fiction books, so I'm kind of proud of myself for that. Then my most read genres are romance, contemporary, fantasy, young adult, and LGBTQA+. I read mostly print. I read 44 books physically. Then I read 23 books digital on my e-reader or on my phone, and I listened to 3 audiobooks this year. Then my most read authors are Sarah J. Maas. I read 8 books by her. You may know which books I read. Then Ellie Hazelwood. I read 4 books by her this year. And then Stephanie Garber, 3 books by her. And then Sarah Adams, also 3 books. Then I mostly read books in English, and then a couple, like 5 books in Dutch, my native language. And then here you can see the number of books and pages I read over the year. So July was my best month. I read 10 books then, so that's quite a lot. But I read in September the most amount of pages. There were 3,401. And then my average star rating this year was 4.14 stars, and that are all of the statistics I have for you guys for 2024 book related. So yeah, that's so fun. I really love watching that because you have so really more insights in all the things you read and how many physical books you read. And I have all of my physical books I own personally, and there are 40 books I owned personally, I think I counted. So, and I also read some of the library. So yeah, now let's get into all of the book related questions. So, first up, the first question is a book you wish you could erase your memory from and read again. I tried to use different books for each question, but that's really hard. But we're going to see and we're going to try. But the first question, as I just said, was a book I could erase from my memory. And I've got 4 books for this question. The first book is. Okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Okay, you know what? It's the first one I see here, and it's actually a series, and that is the Caravel trilogy by Stephanie Garber. So all of these 3 books, I really love them, and I really wish I could read them again, and I'm definitely going to read them again. But these were so good and so magical, and I didn't expect a lot going into this, so I was really surprised in the fact that I really loved these books. So yeah, I really wish because I now know a lot more, but I also do think it would be interesting to read them again, knowing a lot more than going into it blindly. But yeah, I kind of do wish I could erase this from my memory. Then another one of my favorite books this year is none other Funny Story by Emily Henry. I ate this book up. I almost read it in one day, but I just had to stop reading. So yeah, I really love this book, and I think Emily Henry will always be my favorite author, and will read anything she writes. And every book I read by her, I want to erase from my memory and read again and feel all the feels all over again. So yeah, it's not a surprise. I want to erase this book from my memory and read it again for the first time. I'm really hoping this microphone is going well. Then I've got another, and that is I'm just going to take the first book because there's a lot of books. It's not actually first, but it's the name of the series, and that is The Throne of Glass series by Sarah Carrolli. These are 8 books. This is like I read this second, but I was really excited going into it. It was for one of my first reads of 2024. Not the first, but like kind of the first. No, but I was really excited going into it. I was really interested, and I couldn't wait to get into this world. And I'm so glad I decided to read this. And I really want to read it already again because when I was watching the video of Larry reads, she was reading the Throne of Glass series, and she posted a spoiler reading vlog, and I was like, oh my god, I just want to read it all over again and annotate it more, because I did annotate all of these books a little bit, but not that quite much. So I want to read it all again. But you know what? We're going to first read the other books by Sarah Jamas. Maybe then I will read these ones again. And then there's one other book, and that is I've got all the books down here, so it's a little bit difficult because I don't have them in order. And then the next book is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Buston. This really took me by surprise because I did hear a lot of good things about it, and I was very certain I would like it, but I really loved it, and I think it's such an interesting concept, and I really wish I could read it again for the first time. So yeah, I think it's a very fun and interesting concept of a book, and I've never really read anything like this before, and I'm really in a search to read more books like this. Then on to the next question, and that is my favorite new character. So I got 3 names for this. First off, I got Selena Sardartian by the Throne of Glass series. I just think she's such a powerful young woman. I mean, at the start of this series, she's so young. I mean, I think she's like 16, and she's already so much more confident than I was at that age, and that's insane to me. And I really admire her, and I really think she's such a powerful character, and a lot of people would agree with me, I think, on this. So yeah, obviously I had to put her on the list. Then I also have Delilah Owens, I think was her name, from Love Your Design. This is the first book in the Lakefront Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. I really could relate to her at some things, and I think that's the reason why I liked her so much. And I also really love that book. So yeah. And then also Haley, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but from Daydream by Hannah Grace. Also some things I reminded me of myself, and I think that's the reason why I like her so much. So yeah. Then the most surprising book, good and bad. So the first one, I'm going to start with the bad book, and that was Billy Summers by Stephen King. I don't have the physical copy, but I will put obviously a picture of it on screen. So I had really high hopes for this book because I saw a lot of people who really loved this book. And I mean, Stephen King is a very well-known author, and he's highly praised. So I was having a lot of anticipation to really read this book and have high hopes, but it really disappointed me. I think if I wasn't reading it for a video, I would have DNF'd it sooner at the middle, because that was where I kind of got stuck in it and got really bored. So yeah, it was really disappointing to read like a book that was really hyped up, and I didn't like it. And then a book that I thought was good and was surprising to me was, it's a big book, it's a heavy book. It is The Serpent and the Wings of the Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is the first book in the Nightborn Duet Book 1, so you have the second book. Yeah, I didn't know a lot about this book before going into it. I knew it was with vampires and like a competition, but not much. So the fact that I really liked this kind of took me by surprise. I was like, damn, I really want to read the other books and other books by this author because I really like her writing style. So yeah, that was really fun. Okay, then the longest and the shortest book I read. So the shortest book I read was With Any Luck by Ashley Boston. This was like, I forgot it, I think it was 43 pages or something. And then the longest book would be no surprise to you if you know I've read Throne of Glass, and that is obviously Kingdom of Ash. I'm going to quickly look how many pages this is. It's like, take a second, please. It is 980 pages. It's almost 1,000 pages long. That's insane. And I read this. I mostly read it on my Kobo though, because that's such a thick book. But yeah, this is the longest book I read. Then on to the next is my most emotional book of the year, and that will be definitely Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. The way I cried reading this book, I filmed it also for a video, and I was filming the last part, and it just is like me crying for, I think, in half an hour straight. So yeah, you could say that was the most emotional book I read. I definitely cried reading other books, but that book hit me in so many ways. It broke me. It was wow. And I still want to read A Little Life, so I don't know if I'm prepared for that. But you know what? That was definitely the most emotional book I read. And I'm a very emotional person. So I cry very fast and often. No, I'm not saying that I cry every day. Maybe I do, but I'm very emotional, but not in a bad way. I cry. I can cry over little TikToks I see, and people who are telling a story. I'm going to cry if it's sad. Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy with my life. So yeah. Then the happiest book I read, and that was definitely Heartstopper by Alice Osman. This was a graphic novel, my first graphic novel, no, not really my first graphic novel, but my first graphic novel going into my reading era. And there was nothing I didn't like about this book. It was just so fun and happy to read. And thinking about it makes me even smile. There are a lot of other books that I really liked and made me happy, but this book just was so fun. And I really want to read the other books in 2025 because I just want to continue the story of Nick and Charlie, obviously. So yeah. Then the best series. So I got quite a lot. I'm going to first talk about the series I don't have, and that is the Maple Hill series by Hannah Grace. I know this is kind of a controversy, so because not many people like this, it's a lot of people don't like Icebreaker, but do like Daydream and Wildfire in this series. But I liked all of them. I do liked the other two better than Icebreaker, but I still like the series and the little thing that was happening and how everything is connected. I really love that, and it's like a cozy thing to read. So really love that. And then obviously I also really loved, no surprise, the Throne of Glass series by Sarah Jamas. I mean, once finished reading this, I when it started to become September to fall season was happening, I already wanted to start reading it again. I was like, I miss these characters and I wanna read it again. So yeah. And then obviously the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber. I'm so obsessed with this book. It's just I'm still thinking about it, and I really want. I think I will definitely reread it someday, and also I really want to read like the next series, the Once Upon a Broken Hearts trilogy, because it follows after these three. So yeah, really, really, really love these. For your prettiest cover, the first book I want to talk about was Kleine Glutjes by whoa, I forgot the author's name. I didn't write it, so I'm very sorry. But I will put obviously a picture because I borrowed it from the library. I just love this vibe of the cover. It's so cute. It's so soft. For also the colors that were used, I really love this cover. So yeah, I don't think there is any other cover I like more than this one. Then also another cover I loved is the cover of Love Redesigned by Lauren Escher. I just think this cover is so pretty with the purple and like the shiny thing a little bit on it. I just think it's a really fun. I do like this cover better than Love Unwritten in my opinion, but that's just a personal opinion. A book with new favorite quotes. So, obviously, surprise, surprise. Funny Story by Emily Henry. The way this was the first book I really, really annotated by Emily Henry, and as you can see, I tapped a lot in this book and I underlined and did a lot of things. I mean, I'm going to look up a quote, just a random thing I annotated. Here. Life, I'd learned, is a revolving door. Most things that come into it only stay a while. So good. So good. I know it's a cliche, he says after a minute, but being on the water always does feel like what I imagine church is for some people. I get that, I say. Out here, you're small and there's no one else around, but you're not lonely. It's like you're connected to everyone and everything. Like, wow, that's so good. She's so good with words, it's insane. And then also the whole. Wow, that was holding it very badly. The whole Caraval trilogy, I also annotated these books a lot. I still have to add like a paper because I annotated with just different color pens. And I don't think I have, no. But I did annotate like a lot in this book. I really need to make like a legend thing or like what every color means. But so good. And Love Redesigned. I still have some things to annotate because while I was reading it on a train, I just couldn't underline it because I thought I would maybe cross the whole line, you know? Favorite new author. Here we have quite a lot because I read a lot of new authors this year. And first up, we're going to start with one of my favorite, I think, and that is Catherine Centered from The Bodyguard. I read this book and I'm still thinking about it. I really love this. And I already have a new book by her. I will talk about it maybe in a new video. I'm not sure if I'm going to maybe do a little book haul because I'm going to buy some books after my exams are done. And I also got some books for Christmas I want to show you guys, but we'll see about that. But Catherine Sandra, I will definitely read other books by her because I really loved her writing and it was just so. I also think I can actually put this book for the quotes because I also annotated a lot in this. I kind of forgot, but because I also tapped something. So yeah, really love this book and I really love Catherine Sandra writing and will be definitely reading more books by her. Then this was a book I never saw a lot of people talk about, but I read one book by her, and then I read two other books by this author this summer, and I will be reading other books by her, and that is Sarah Adams. So I first read The Match by her, and then I also read the cheat sheet and the rule book, and I just really like her writing. It's really simple, but it's so fast paced, and yeah, I really like this kind of books. I mean, it's not that thick of a book, but I mean, not every book should be like 300, 400 pages, you know? But yeah, I will definitely will be reading more books in 2025 by her. Then I also obviously love Stephanie Garber from the Careful trilogy. I will be definitely reading more books by her. I don't know if she has other books that by besides Caravel and the Once a Broken Heart series, but I will definitely be looking up into that. Kristen Hanna. I read the Firefly Lane by her, and I will definitely be reading other books. I love that book so much. I still think about it to this day, and the writing was so good. And I have The Nightingale on my list for books to read in 2025, so hopefully I will be able to. And I also want to read other books besides Nightingale, The Great Alone, for example, and other books. So yeah, definitely a new favorite author for me. Ashley Boston from The 7 Year Slip. I already have the Dutch Romantics, and I really want to read it soon because I just really love the kind of book she writes. I mean, this book was like magical realism and the Dutch Romantics too, and I think her I forgot what a novel love story is a kind of the same vibes. All our books are kind of like the magical realism, and I really like that. So definitely will be reading more books by Ashley Boston. Books I finally read. So books I've been wanting to read for a long time, and I finally read them this year. That's how I think this question is meant. And that the first one is Heartstopper by Alice Osman. I've been wanting to read it for a very long time, and I'm very glad I finally did because I'm obsessed with it, and I just want to read other books by her. Also, the 12 Glass series. I mean, these are such a highly praised book series, and I was like, before I read it, I saw everyone reading it, I think, and I'm so glad I finally did. So yeah, nothing more to say about that. I'm also finally read the cheat sheet and the rule book by Sarah Adams. These were like more of a hype, I think 2 years ago or a year ago, and I finally got to read them, and they did not disappoint me. So very happy with that. And then also The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This was a thriller book that was still very popular, but I was not gotten to round to pick it up or not interested enough in thrillers to read it. And I read it this year at the end in December, and I really liked it. And she has just like the right amount of thrill in it, so I'm not too spooked out. So yeah, really like that. Books I'm glad I got off my TBR. So either my physical TBR, mostly my physical TBR, or books I'm glad I finally read that I've been wanting to read for a long time. So it's kind of the same question as the question before, but yeah. So the first book is The Woven Kingdom by Tara Maffey. I've got this book. I had this book for I think like 2 years, 1 year, and I still hadn't read it. And then in November, I finally decided to read it. I'm very glad I did because I did like it. It was a good book. It's a little bit different from other books, and it really was my fantasy era this year. So I'm very glad I could take it off my TBR list. Then another book I almost read it. It's what the book I read the longest time. So I read it for like a year and a couple of days, and that is Love Stories by Trent Dalton. This is a non-fiction book, and it's a collection of different love stories. I talked about this book in another video before, and I finally could take it off my TBR, and I'm so glad I did because it was a really interesting book to read, and I think everyone should read it. I mean, it's so interesting to see all of people's stories and love stories told. So yeah. Then another book I finally read is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I also had this for quite a while, and I'm really glad I did read it because it's good. Yeah, really glad I finally read it. a book that should be made into a TV or a show of a movie. And I do think that the Caraval trilogy would make like an interesting TV show or movie because there are so many twists and games happening in this book. I think is yeah, I do think it could be very interesting to see this come to life. So yeah. Which book is your happy place book? So first up, Funny Story by Emily Henry. I know I could use this book at every question, I think, if I wasn't being honest, but I'm not. But yeah, yeah, this book is just wow. Just wow. And then also The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I didn't expect this book to have such an impact on me, and the way I cried also reading this book was, I didn't expect it to be that emotional, but I kind of could have expected it because I saw people saying Catherine Center can take you by surprise with some emotional plot twists, and she sure did. So yeah, these are my happy place books. Then an unpopular book you loved and vice versa. So the first unpopular book I loved, I'm looking for it. That is a book, part of a series, and I saw a lot of people really disliking this book, but I quite enjoyed it and I really loved it. And that is Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. So this is part of the Throne of Glass series, and you tandem read it with Empire of Storms. And a lot of people dislike this book because it's mainly focused on Chaol, but I really love Kale as a character, so I wasn't bothered by it. And I really loved it. I also gave it 5 stars. A lot of people didn't give it 5 stars, I know. So yeah, I think this is quite a good book to talk about by saying a lot of people don't love this book. So yeah. And then another book I loved, but I do saw some people saying they didn't love it, and that is Bride by Ellie Hazelwood. I mean, this is a lot of this is a lot different than other books she wrote, like Love Theoretically, Love on the Brain, Life Hypothesis. So, it's different from her normal writing style, a normal genre she writes, but I really loved it. And I think it's such a good book, and I really think it's fun to see others dive into other genres they normally do and succeeding in it. So, yeah. Then a book I didn't like, I actually hated, especially the first one I'm talking about, and that is Billy Summers by Stephen King. I talked about it. I just didn't like it. I give it 2 stars, but if I'm being honest, I should give it 1 star because it was just not good. And I don't see why people would love it so much because I was kind of disturbed in some ways. So yeah. And then another book, it's not that I hated this book, but I was kind of disappointed in the fact that I expected more. And that is A Man Called Uva by Frederick Buckman. A lot of people really love this book, and you know what, I think it was a good book, but it was just nothing more than it was a good book. So yeah. The lowest and highest rated on Goodreads. So the lowest rated book is Merry Ever After by Tessa Bailey. I will put on the screen how many the average rating is on Goodreads because I forgot, and I do understand why it's that low because that book kind of sucked. If I'm being honest, I gave it 1 star, if it even deserved a 1 star, because come on, that was just not good, if I'm being honest. And then other book is none other than Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I think it deserves to be this highly rated on Goodreads because it is a very damn good book. My favorite audiobook. So I listened to some audiobooks, but my favorite one was actually a reread, but I now listen to it, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I saw a lot of people saying they really loved this audiobook because this book is very good type of setup to be an audiobook because it's in the interview style, and I really loved listening to it because I really felt I was listening to a podcast. And yeah, definitely will be also rereading this one day because listening to it really was like, yeah, this is actually kind of a good book and I really love this book. So yeah. A new annual reread. So these are not books I will be definitely reading every year, but I will be definitely rereading one day or at some point. And the first book that I want to talk about is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. As I said before, I just really love this book, and I think it deserves all the love and hype it gets because it's just so wow, and I didn't expect it to be so good. And I'll be definitely rereading this and annotating even more. Then obviously, Funny Story by Emily Henry. I mean, what did you expect? I also read Happy Place again this year, and that really reminded me how much I love Emily Henry writing, and will be definitely rereading all of her books once. So obviously, Funny Story has to be one as well. I'm looking for it. Here. Maybe weird, and I don't think a lot of people would reread this, but I would, and that is by Ali Hazelwood. This one took me by surprise because I really loved the setup of this book and the different type of genre this was from Ali Hazelwood, her normal genre she writes. But I will definitely reread this one day because I think it's just such a interesting, fun book to read. And yeah, definitely will be rereading this one day. Then, obviously, as I talked about it, I'm going to grab another book, and that is a Throne of the Glass series. All of the books I loved, and I will be definitely rereading it one day in my life because I just need to feel all the feels again. I think the last book, yeah, the last book is, I talked about this too, the Caravel trilogy. I just need to reread this again, and maybe not this year, maybe the year after in 2026. So I kind of don't remember all of it anymore, so it's a little bit more surprising to me, you know? The last question is my new comfort book. And I know I'm repeating some books. I'm repeating a lot of books actually, but I'm sorry. But that's definitely Catherine Center Bodyguard and also Funny Story. I mean, these books, they're just so good, and I will think about them every day of my life, and will definitely be reading them again, as I just said. They're just so good and just really hit me in my feels, you know? So, yeah. So, now talking about my goals for 2025. I've got a couple of goals I want to talk about. I have them in my book journal, so I'm looking at that just to be sure. So, first up, since I read a 70 book this year, I thought, you know what, we're going to set up a higher goal and challenge myself a little bit more because I like doing that. So I really want to read 100 books this year. It's quite a lot. I mean, it's a lot of books, let's be honest. I'm still a student, so I don't know if I'm going to make it, but you know what? We're going to try and we'll see. I still read for fun, so if I don't get to the 100 books, that's fine to me either. It really doesn't matter. I really want to say it really doesn't matter how many books you read as long as you read books you like. And that's what actually counts because you see a lot of booktubers reading like 200 books, but you have to keep in mind that some of these booktubers only do this as their job. I mean, I read a lot of books, but I also have like another things I have to do. Like I'm a student, I still have to do exams, I have to do some tasks, you know? So yeah. Then one of my goals last year also was to read a classic book. So I'm putting that on again. I really want to read a classic book. I have 4 books in my possession that are classics. So we really have to try to do that this year, you know? Then I also want to read 10 Dutch books this year. I read previously, I think I read 6 or 5, so it should be doable. I think I just want to read more books by my own native language and explore more Belgian and Dutch authors because there are some good books out there, but you just have to find them. Then I want to read 5 nonfiction books. I don't have mostly like memoirs or just books that interest me, not specifically like self-help books, because just books that are nonfiction. I definitely want to reduce my physical TBR. That sounds really a reading goal I have, but I really have a lot of books in my possession. I'm very much aware of that, and I do want to keep a little bit. Don't spend too much money anymore on books. Even though while I have a lot of books at home waiting to be read. So yeah, we're going to try that in 2025. And then very much of a goal I do because I I don't know why I put it on here, but I'm going to try. If I don't do it, it's okay, but we're going to try. And that is read a French book. Yeah. I'm not that good at French. Like I'm really bad at it actually. No, you know what? I'm trying. But I study journalism and I have a class I have to take and that's French and I'm not good at it, but maybe if I do more things that are involved with French, like reading a book. I love reading, so why not read a book of French? I already have a book on my Kobo in French, and it is A Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood. I thought, why not read a book that I've already read in English or in Dutch, but read it in French because I already know the story, so it's a little bit easier to get into it. Because that's how I started reading English books. I first read a book in English I already read in Dutch, and that was Girl and I by Zoe Suck. I read it before in Dutch, and then I was like, you know what, we're going to try to read in English because I want to try to read more books in English. And now we end up here with a lot of books I read in English. So yeah, so that was it for today's video, and that were all of the bookish things I did this year and read this year. I hope you liked the video, and yeah, I'm very proud of myself, and I've read a lot of good books this year, also some bad books, but you know what? That's part of the job, you know? Sometimes you you can't like every book you read, and that's fine. So yeah. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far in the video, comment a bookish emoji, and also let me know what your favorite read was of 2024. And I'll see you next time. Bye!